Everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today we're going to do a video that I've mentioned that I wanted to film for a little bit now, and that is my how-to guide, how to read Michael J. Sullivan. I've mentioned his books quite a few times on this channel as the big trucks go by and make all this noise. Quite a few of you actually comment in my comment section whenever I've brought up Michael J. Sullivan's books, and the most common question that I get is, where exactly do I start with all of his books? Because there's a number of different things that you could start with, and what do you find the best reading order to be? So I'm going to give you my personal opinion, my guide on how to read Michael J. Sullivan, so stay tuned. Okay, so the reason why I think people are so confused about where to start with Michael J. Sullivan is that there are three prominent series of his, and two of them sound like exactly the same thing. So he has the Riyria Revelations, the Riyria Chronicles, and then the Legends of the First Empire series. My personal opinion on where you should start is going to be with the Riyria Revelation series. So that consists of Book 1, Theft of Swords. This is Book 2, this is Rise of Empire, and Book 3 is called Heir of Novron. The books that he actually wrote 6 books, and then when he was picked up by Orbit, they combined it into 3 different bind-ups and published it as a trilogy. The book starts off, Royce and Hadrian are our infamous Riyria duo. They are 2 thieves for hire, and they get hired for really extravagant jobs. Well, they have been hired to steal a very famed sword, and in the midst of them stealing this sword, they end up getting framed for murder, and then it starts from there. There's a whole conspiracy over who wins the crown, who actually killed the king, is there a new god in town? I always say that this is one of my favorite fantasy series to recommend to new fantasy readers because it's so straightforward action, it's really funny, lighthearted, it's fantasy light. You're not going to get bogged down with a ton of details. You have just enough detail, just enough humor, just enough character development to get you started on a really great series, and so that's why I recommend starting with Theft of Swords. Now, I've talked about this actually in my 1,000 subscriber Q&A about if I could talk to any author and what question would I ask them. My question that I wanted to ask was actually to Michael J. Sullivan, and that is, when he completed writing the Riyria Revelations, he had some time off from writing about these 2 characters, Royce and Hadrian, and then eventually he decided that he missed them and then began writing the Riyria Chronicles, and that's the next series that I want to talk about. So the Riyria Chronicles starts off with the Crown Tower, then we have the Rose and the Thorn. The 3rd book is called The Death of Dulgath. And the 4th book, you might remember when I hauled this is The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter. The first story, The Crown Tower, is the story of how they met and how they got their first job together as 2 thieves for hire. The Rose and the Thorn tells a lot of really great backstory on the 2 of them. It gives you a lot of depth into the 2 different characters, and it takes a little bit of a dark turn. And then when we finally get to The Death of Dulgath and The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter, now we're just into some really fun adventures, and that was Michael J. Sullivan's whole point when he decided he wanted to write the Chronicles as a series, because he missed the 2 characters so much and he wanted to write more about the different adventures and the craziness that they got into. The cool thing about this series is that each one of these 4 novels can be read as a standalone adventure. So if you did not read the Riyria Revelations and you own one of these, because I have a couple of subscribers who said that they own one of these books, these actually can be read as standalone novels. So you're just going to get a really fast-paced, fun fantasy adventure without all the backstory, and if that's fine with you, then you can pick any one of these up. But I'm definitely one of those readers that I wanted to have all of the knowledge in place and all of the Easter eggs to pop up at exactly the right moment, so that's why I read it in publication order. So I did read the Riyria Revelations first before I read each one of these. Alright, then finally, the one series of his that you might find the most prominent in bookstores, this is the Legends of the First Empire series. So it consists of Age of Myth. Book 2 is called Age of Swords. And Book 3 will be released in July. That's called Age of War. That series really starts with Age of Myth, and this is actually a prequel series to the Riyria duo. This book series takes place 1,000 years before any of the adventures with Royce and Hadrian. We have a whole new set of cast of characters. We have a whole new magic system in place, and this is where we get to see some of the legends that took place in the Riyria books really come to life, and it's been really fun for me as a reader because he's still writing these. He's publishing the 3rd one very, very soon. If you started with Riyria Revelations and then you move on to this, that's a really great order, but if you decided to pick this up first, I don't think it's going to hurt you either way. This book is a story about the human race is living in a very primitive time, and there is a magical border in this land where beyond it is where the elves or the Frey live. And there's not any mixing between the two races, but one day some elves come across into the human side and a human family ends up killing the elves. And this is how the humans begin to realize that the elves and the Frey are not immortal and godlike, that they can be slain, and perhaps the humans can rise above their station. There's politicking, there's magic, there's a young girl who's a seer and she's really, really quirky and cute. So if you end up not reading the Riyria books and you ended up picking this one first, I think you'll be totally fine because this tells a completely separate story. Like I said, it's 1,000 years before anything with Royce and Hadrian in it. Age of Swords ended up being one of my favorite books for 2017. It made the cut for one of my favorite cast of characters because there's a very female-driven storyline in here that's really fun, and we don't get to see a lot of it in fantasy. Again, it has a lot of Michael J. Sullivan's touch where it's going to be super lighthearted, really fast-moving action, and again, it's not going to bog you down with too many details that you won't be able to enjoy the story with, which is why I think he's so successful and why he has so many different series to begin with. So I hope this guide has been helpful for you. Again, if you have any questions about where you want to start with Michael J. Sullivan, please leave them in the comment section below. But I hope this has been helpful to some of my subscribers who just had no idea where to start. Maybe you owned a couple books and you were a little bit intimidated of the reading order. The long story short is I don't think there's any wrong way to begin reading Michael J. Sullivan, and he has written his books and intended them to be that way. You can enjoy Riyria Revelations, you can enjoy the Chronicles separately as standalones, or you can read the Legends of the First Empire series as a completely separate series without any knowledge. And he has done a brilliant job of crafting this world being very accessible to the reader, accessible to his fans, and that's why I enjoy it, and that's why I keep coming back to him as an author. All right, everyone, Twitter, Instagram, @WhatCastRead, the same as this channel, so I'm super easy to find. My Goodreads link is always going to be down below, and you know how these videos end. Talk to you later. Bye.